And to finish off the window, one more sale and confirm Stefan Malk 550,000 in our bank, a profitable transfer window. Where's my recognition board? Acknowledge me. Acknowledge me. We are so ready to win the title again. Come on.
There's a party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 31 of this New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both the All Whites and with AFC Auckland. Coming up today, we start the fourth season with our A-League clubs and transfers before we get stuck into a couple of games to start off this new season. Hopefully this time can pick up a quadruple after last season. Adelaide United, who are about to play in the APL Cup, they were able to pick up the Australian Cup after we got knocked out of that competition by the Western Sydney Wanderers. So if you're looking forward to start season 4 with AFC Auckland in the save, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But the last couple of days we've got through the 2026 FIFA World Cup with the All Whites. It went surprisingly well, not like we won it, but did go further than the group stage, which is a win for us. If you missed those couple of episodes, I'll leave a link to yesterday's one over in the top right corner. While that was taking place, did start to get some transfer plans going with AFC Auckland, and now that we're at the start of the season, almost going to start things off with this APL Cup. Hopefully can pick this up for the second time in a row, albeit this year playing it away from home over in Adelaide. But before we get stuck into this first game, we'll show you guys of the season. We'll run through the transfers that we did do while that World Cup was taking place. And just off the back of it, obviously lost a couple of players on free transfers last season. Those were Chris Wood. We already knew he was going to Turkey off the back of the World Cup, where unfortunately an injury meant he didn't play too much of a part in that. And also Adam Mitchell, we let go on a free transfer. So it did mean potentially needed at least a centre-back and maybe a striker, albeit David Basilage did look quite promising when we did use him last season. We'll make our way over to the transfer history. Also worth noting, upgrading staff. Interesting appointment coming through shortly, hopefully. Chris Greenacre, formerly the assistant manager of the Wellington Phoenix, he might be back on his way this time to help me manage AFC Auckland. So a new assistant manager might be here in time for the start of the A-League season. But in terms of transfers of players, this is where things starts. Obviously, quite a bit of this list does include the transfers that we did in the third season of this save, but a couple are applicable to this fourth season as well. One that might be is young Tomislav Barisic. We actually signed him halfway through last season from the Melbourne Knights. He went back out on loan, but he is a very promising right back, already homegrown nation Australia. We'll see if we keep him around the season, of course, because he's under 19 years old. He doesn't actually need to be registered, so it could be quite useful if we do pick up an injury at either right back or left back. But as you can see, a player with quite a bit of potential, got him on a free, a good bit of business. Hopefully, if we need to use him, he'll do a decent job, but certainly one for the future for us here at AFC Auckland. Yet the youth cap for Australia. Hopefully that will stay that way, and he might be a future option at right or left back for us. And the All Whites does look like, though, he is a bit more natural at left back is Tomislav Barisic. That was one we did last season, but might have more implications this season. We'll see if we need him in the early stages of the season, or if yet again we do send him out on loan if I do feel we have adequate wing-back cover. Off the back of that, though, we did start to do a bit more business in terms of this season, just make our way and get this the right way around so I can work through it in chronological order. First up, we did actually sign someone on a free transfer to replace the outgoing Adam Mitchell, who, as I said, did leave on a free. And this, I thought, really good bit of business from a National League team over in England. Ryan Galbraith is an 18-year-old Australian that we picked up on a free transfer. 2.5-star current ability, 4 to 5-star potential, and he does look quite handy indeed. 1.82 meters tall, not that big in terms of height, but in terms of that potential, certainly someone who is worth a punt. And yet again, because he's under the age of 19, doesn't need to be registered, and of course being Australian does count as one of our local players. So I think that was quite a good transfer from Adelaide United, a promising player to come in and replace the outgoing Adam Mitchell. Ryan Galbraith will join us and probably be fourth or third choice for us in this fourth season here at AFC Auckland. That was the first incoming for this season itself. Off the back of that though, did get rid of some players. We'll just get rid here of the big circles that block the screen a bit. First up, Stefan Negro. I did feel like it was time to let him go. He was in the final year of his contract. Western United came in with a £400,000 bid, which, considering his current ability and potential, I thought was pretty good, especially considering that we bought him in the first year of the save when we were setting up the club for £105,000 off the Melbourne Victory. And yeah, not that much potential these days. Definitely wasn't going to be a future all-white option, so we let him go. And these days, he will be hoping to keep Western United up in the A-League off the back of them just struggling in the last couple of seasons of the save-free solid ones for us. But to be fair, was always a backup to Callan Elliott. So Stefan Negro, he departed the club partly because we did somewhat replace him with that signing of Tomislav Barisic, albeit not too long off the back of that, did actually sign someone to come in and replace him. And also Callan Elliott is a first choice right back. This is one of our new imports here at AFC Auckland. Sam Curtis from St. Patrick's Athletic over in Ireland, 425,000, rising to £500,000. He has a couple of under-21 caps for Ireland, but so far not called up to the senior team. And of course, Ireland actually went quite well at that FIFA World Cup, so hopefully they won't be looking to improve in too many positions, but this guy does have a fair bit of potential, 4.5 stars and 3.5 star current ability. Certainly an improvement on Callan Elliott. And if he doesn't get called up for Ireland at 20 years old, he could be someone that definitely improves our depth there at right back and would come in and be an immediate starter. That's one area I think we're quite weak at currently with the all-white squad in terms of current players and future prospects as well. So Sam Curtis comes in as a new first choice right back, can also cover centre back, but at 1.75 metres tall. Probably won't be doing that too much, but off the back of a couple of good seasons there at St. Patrick's Athletic over in the Irish Premier Division. Hopefully he can do a good job for us here down in the A-League. To be fair, not too sure if that's a step up or not, but hopefully he'll do a good job for us as our new first choice right back. It does mean Callan Elliott, he now drops down to being the backup. That does mean though that we got rid of a couple of foreigners on the other side because we were at our foreign limit come the end of last season. And that was because we got rid of one of the mainstays so far of the Sabre player who I was hoping would actually play for the All Whites. But to be fair, our depth on the wings these days is not too bad at all. Some good young promising players coming through off the back of the last couple of youth intakes, both here at AFC Auckland and at the Wellington Phoenix. So Gavin Tormine has made his way back over to France. We sold him to Laval, and that was for a fee of £350,000. Not a heap of money, but not too bad considering that we did sign him on a free transfer. It was great for us in the first season of the save, where we nearly got past the Central Coast Mariners for a maiden title, and off the back of that, his output did drop down a little bit, but that was probably off the back of us signing Jorge Fernandez in January of the second season of the save, and he certainly does outrank Gavin Tormine, and will keep him even though he is a Georgian player these days. Can't play for the All Whites in the future because of that, but Gavin Tormine was superb for us in the first couple of years of the save, but had just declined going into the fourth season, so we did decide to let him go over to Laval in League Os. That did free up a foreign spot, which I thought was quite a good idea, seeing as Tormine was a backup player. Don't want backup players taking up too many of those foreign spots, and that's also the reason that we let go of Lucas Nunez, the Uruguayan centre-back come defensive midfielder. He's now over in Saudi Arabia playing for Al Fayha, and this is a transfer we made nearly double profit on, signing him for $325k going into the 2024-25 season, selling him for £625,000. That certainly helped bump up the transfer budget. Those sales, as well as the one of Stefan Negro, certainly made sure that we could get some more players off the back of that signing of Sam Curtis. And going into the new season, you will see that we have signed quite a bit of talent, albeit in terms of actually balancing the books, have actually managed to make a profit in this transfer window, which is a bit rare for me so far in the save. First thing that we did is get rid of a couple of youth players, and then Sebastian Pascali, let him go to Sydney FC. This one might seem a little bit weird because he has been pretty good for us the past two seasons of the save after we got him on a free, but did look at our deep line playmaker options off the back of Michael Cornelius Beale coming for our youth intake last season. He'll be the starter for this fourth season of the save, and Nick Baker, who at one stage last season was the backup to Pascali, actually better than him attribute-wise these days. So it did mean 2 deep-lying playmakers we don't need to register. We could cash in on Pascali in the last year of his contract, and we did that. So he's gone to Sydney FC for £550,000. Nice bit of profit there for a player that we picked up for nothing. As I said, 2 very good seasons here, but just outranked by a couple of youngsters here from our last couple of youth intakes. In this save, and that did mean that we did need to up our quota of homegrown nation players. So what we did to accommodate that was finally get Aiki Tsukamoto from the Perth Glory to play as our first choice defensive midfielder over both Te Watema and Nathan Palmer. He is a very promising 21-year-old, has been kept at under 23 level for Australia, but hopefully won't be called up to the national team. Bit of a risk, but even then, he's a really good homegrown nation player who hopefully can make that defensive midfield position his own for a long time in the save. As you can see, the value already quite high. We did spend quite a bit on him. It was a release clause of £950,000, but hopefully he can just help solidify ourselves here at AFC Auckland as the top team in the A-League and escape the Perth Glory, who have been struggling in the last couple of seasons of this save. A big transfer there, but he does look like a really good homegrown nation player. Good to get some high potential players in those positions, seeing as we do need a couple before the youth intake players do go over the age of 19. So Aiki Tsukamoto comes in as a first choice defensive midfielder, and as I said earlier, also Sam Curtis as a first choice right back. Off the back of that, we then added a bit more squad depth to replace both Gavin Tormin as well as Lucas Nunes. So first up, signed another homegrown nation player on a free transfer, and this is Cameron Pupion. I'm going to probably just call him Pew Pew after a while because that name just too funny not to, but he's got a decent amount of potential, a little bit more than Gavin Tormin. 23 years old, has spent some time recently at Brighton and out on loan at Cheltenham after he went there after starting his career off at Sydney FC, but he is a good solid squad player for us, can cover both left wing and right wing, so on a free transfer that looked quite good, and also a homegrown nation player as a backup to both Ronaldo and Vernadze. Did seem like quite a good use of one of those slots. So Cameron Pupion, he comes in as a backup winger for us. Still got Matthew de Hotman de Villiers as the left wing backup. So Pupion will probably be the right wing backup, as I said, like Tormin was doing for us last season. And off the back of that, also signed a centre back to come in for Lucas Nunes, and also kind of for Adam Mitchell as well. This is Finlander, Canadian, but actually is partly New Zealand, so it does mean he counts as a local player. We'll see if we might be able to get him to turn back to being a New Zealand national, because that did change quite early in the save, but he's a centre-back with decent current ability and potential, especially for someone who will be a backup option for us on the bench behind yet again Victor Ross and Courtney Perkins. The Finlander joins us from Vancouver for £400,000. Hopefully will do a decent job when we call upon him from the bench. So that was another transfer that we did make, that one for a bit of money, and I did still have a little bit left over off the back of that transfer. Wasn't necessarily looking for an improvement in this area, but this guy popped up with a release clause of £160,000, and he was better than our current starters, so it just felt a little bit silly not to trigger that release clause. It was brought up by a new scout that came in on that day, so good work from him. But Jonathan Mercado comes in as a very interesting player, considering he can play striker, central attacking midfield, as well as defensive midfield. But for £160,000, he looks like a real bargain. 4-star current ability and 5-star potential, and being 20 years old and Argentinian with no youth caps, he should be a future All Whites prospect for us in this save, and is certainly a lot better than Ben Waine as a striking option. That could be quite useful. He won't be ready in time for the next World Cup, but the one after that, that might be quite useful if Chris Wood is retired, which I imagine might be the case either side of that World Cup. Don't expect him to last too much longer. Off the back of that, we'll see how he gets on over in Turkey. But Jonathan Mercado looks like a really promising player for us. 20 determination, some really nice attributes there. Teamwork, work rate, finishing, and first touch, and a bit of versatility as well. He could certainly be a useful player for us both here at AFC Auckland and for the All Whites in a couple of years' time. So nice bargain, I think, there for £160,000. That did mean, though, had to get rid of some players to make sure we could get our squad down to the size needed of 20, despite the fact we've actually got quite a few players these days who don't need to be registered under the age of 19. So late in the window, we did get rid of Michael Vood. To be fair, made the sale a lot earlier, but this is where it went through. Michael Vood, he has gone back to Japan, to Shimizu S-Pulse, and that was for a fee of £200,000 off the back of us signing him a couple of seasons ago. He was the backup here behind Alex Paulson, but wasn't good enough to make the World Cup squad for New Zealand, so I did think that maybe we should let him go, see if he can develop a bit more with hopefully some more regular first team football, which unfortunately he didn't get here at AFC Auckland with Alex Paulson in his way, and also some young goalkeepers now that we need to register here with good potential in Billy Debenham and Matthew Ford. So I did think getting rid of an older Michael Vood was a good idea, so we make £200,000 on that transfer with him going back to Japan. And also we got rid of Stefan Malk to make sure that we could actually register Jonathan Mercado, because we did actually have one too many homegrown nation players from Australia. And when he was at the club, 2.5-star current ability, 2.5-star potential, and these days would have been the third choice central attacking midfielder behind both Max Caputo and young Justin Keats. We got rid of Stefan Malk despite the fact he was our captain and actually have been pretty good for us so far in this save. 3 very good seasons to start off the save, but we'll let him go for £550,000 to the Western Sydney Wanderers. That could be a bit controversial with those guys being our closest title challengers last season, but certainly that is a good amount of money for a player who was getting pretty close to an age where I think it would have been a good time to let him go at 30 years old. So that's a transfer business that we have done going into this 4th season of the save. Hopefully a few more players now in our squad that could potentially be future All Whites prospects, getting rid of some Australians who are probably a bit too old or had too low potential for that to be the case. And what that does mean for the season preview in terms of the A-League is yet again we are expected to win it, and this time win it quite comfortably. Those odds are very, very short. Sydney FC and Western Sydney are supposed to be our closest challengers, and then not too far behind the likes of Melbourne City, the Wellington Phoenix, who of course last season did actually finish 3rd. It'll be interesting to see how they get on the season, seeing as they are ranked a bit higher than they have been in previous seasons on that preview. And also just behind them, the likes of the Central Coast Mariners and Melbourne Victory. Adelaide are all the way down in 8th. Hopefully that means we can pick up a win over those guys in this first game of the season, the pre-season cup. We will take them on, hopefully win that for the 2nd season in a row. Before we do get into that game, just a quick warning. We usually show guys what our first choice 11 does look like, but lots of players off the back of our pre-season are on quite a heavy workload. So because of that, this isn't really our first choice 11 for this cup game. It is a chance to start the season off with a trophy. So hopefully we can do that and get some minutes here into some new players at the club, and also some getting a real look into the first team. John Nolan starting in the central attacking midfield role. That is because Max Caputo, he started off the season with some sprained knee ligaments, so unfortunately he'll be missing for the first couple of games that will come back shortly, and hopefully pick up the APL Cup for a 2nd season in a row away at Adelaide United. And here are the team sheets for this pre-season cup game, the APL Cup. Here at Adelaide United, they've actually still got Joe Gauch. They did renew his contract late last season, so he is still there in between the sticks, is the current Aston Villa man in real life, but they are still going with a 5-2-1-2. Lots of changes for us. We've got Baker in the DLP, also Pyong out right, as you saw before, Nolan in the central attacking midfield, and also Mercado up top, but hopefully can still pick up this cup for the 2nd season in a row. And just past the 10-minute mark, first highlight of this cup game here is a free kick to the home team in front of their fans. Alagic here will try and put that one top left corner. Actually, good save there from Alex Paulson. That one was on target, but thankfully, good save there from the All Whites keeper off the back of a pretty decent World Cup, I think it's fair to say, despite the fact he conceded 7 against Portugal and 3 against the Netherlands. But to be fair, actually saved a couple of good chances. And amongst that, nice one there for Toure too, for Adelaide to make it 1-0, but thankfully he's off target. Bit of a sloppy start, but thankfully it's still 0-0. And it's taken a while, but we might finally have a highlight here in our favour in this first half, of throw-in right around the halfway line on our right-hand side. So Curtis takes that, one of the new signings here at AFC Auckland, Victor Ross, pings that one back out to him. He starts to make his way forward. Will be interesting to see if he can click as soon as Callum Elliott did in that right back position. Nice square there from Pion for Mikado, but unfortunately that one won't count as he was offside. So it looks like it might be 0-0 going to half time, and indeed that will be the case. John Nolan picked up a late yellow card in that first half, so it might be a good idea here at half time to take him off, albeit not too sure what our bench options here are, considering the players who were on a heavy workload. Nick Baker can play attacking midfield, so we'll put him there, and Taylor Tamer we might bring on in place of Nolan and try him out as a deep-lying playmaker. It's often suggested he might be better there than as a defensive midfielder, and obviously with Aiki Tsukamoto coming in, that might be a good thing to try nice and early in the season. But we'll tell the guys, disappointing first half and hopefully get a bit more action in the second, as it's still 0-0. And 10 minutes into the second half, first hot of it here as we are on the attack down the left-hand side. Adelaide try and clear that one, but thankfully Debungo is there to tidy things up. So far in this game, both teams with 3 shots, but 0 on target. So it's been a pretty poor display so far in terms of attack from both teams. Not much has gone on in that first half. Hopefully the second half, there'll be a bit more happening. And Curtis makes his way down that right-hand side. The Irishman who gets towards the byline will square that one. It finds its way through to Jorge Fernandez. This time no one's offside, and we grab the first goal of this season's APL Cup and take a 1-0 lead. Hopefully that will get us on our way to defending this trophy, and Curtis will pick up his first assist. I believe that will be for us here at AFC Auckland in a competitive game. Kind of nutmeg someone there. They're all marking Baker, and Fernandez finds himself in a lot of space and puts that away, does the Georgian international, to make it 1-0. And just making our way into the last 20 minutes of this game, we are going to make our last couple of subs at this time with that 1-0 lead. We'll just take off the players here on a poor rating. So Basilage can come on for Mikado. Waino not involved in this game on a heavy workload. Also, we've got Aiki Tsukamoto on an average rating. Victor Ross as well as Courtney Perkins. Finlander will bring him on for Courtney Perkins in this situation. As well as that, we'll bring on Nathan Palmer in place of Aiki Tsukamoto, and we'll bring on here to Hotman de Villiers as well, but in place of Nick Baker. Fernandez, off the back of scoring that goal, he can go into central attacking midfield. That's all our subs used, and still a 1-0 lead inside the last 20 minutes. And just inside the last 10 minutes of this game, there is a corner here in our favour. Hopefully can grab a cushion goal here and make it 2-0. We did start to time waste a little bit with 10 minutes to go in this one, as we usually do. Obviously pre-season game, but still would be nice to pick up a trophy. Nearly link up there with the Hotman de Villiers, but unfortunately Adelaide, they snuffed that one out. And now Van der Sag, he is on the ball here for the Reds, the home team on this occasion, putting up a decent fight here, but to be fair, both teams a bit wasteful in front of goal. Linda there with a foot, and thankfully Victor Ross covers that one off, and we now get a chance to get back on the attack. Curtis plays the ball forward there to Fernandez, but not a very good one. Good slide tackle there, and Adelaide United, they get back on the ball and do look to build from the back. A nice ball over the top there for Toure, who is in behind Curtis, and we'll see what he can do just inside the byline. Squares that one for Nicholas Waller, and Adelaide United, they do grab a late equaliser in this one, so that's a bit interesting. Might have to cancel our time-wasting tactics off the back of this, because unfortunately, we just implemented them, and Adelaide United, they score an equaliser that is pretty similar to the goal that we scored to start off this half. Very similar finish. Paulson doesn't even bother attempting a save, and Waller makes it 1-1 there to Adelaide United. And in fact, right off the back of that highlight, Toure is on the attack yet again, looking to do the exact same thing, but thankfully this time one of our defenders is there to cut that one out. Now Fernandez, nice blow over the top there, and might get a chance to do something on the counter-attack. Basilage, that ball does fall kindly to Hotman de Villiers, and apparently he was onside. Wasn't too sure if that goal was going to count, but thankfully it does. We make it 2-1, and might be time for us to put those time-wasting things back on now, because I was thinking about cancelling them, but obviously now we've actually gone back in front. Might be a good idea. Basilage there gets tripped up by Zukov, but I'm not too sure if he's touched the ball there or not. That might be what puts the Hotman de Villiers onside, because it did look like he might just be offside there. So maybe interesting challenge there from Adelaide United. They might feel a little bit hard done by off the back of that goal, but because of that, we'll keep the time-wasting things on, and a late free kick here to United, but we do intercept it, so a chance for us here to hopefully grab a late cushion goal yet again, looking forward to Hotman de Villiers. So for our left wingers coming up with the goals, nice ball over the top that time for Cameron Pew, and he'll score his first goal in a competitive game for the club, it's our wingers coming to the fore here today. Taua Taima with a late assist there as the deep line playmaker, but Adelaide United lost the ball there from that free kick. Taima, lovely one over the top there, and Piu just gets in behind and puts that one away. So 2 late goals do mean that thankfully this one won't be going to extra time or penalties, because that might not have been ideal with quite a few players already on a heavy workload going into the start of the A-League season. But thankfully, I think that might just about do it. Certainly not our best display, but obviously quite a few players going to this one on a heavy workload that would usually be in our first choice 11. Hopefully we'll be a bit closer to that for the next game that we do show you guys in the A-League. Late chance here potentially for Adelaide, but thankfully Palmer will clear that one, and Basilage actually does quite well to get that back for us. Might be a chance for us here to make it 4-1 late. Pion on the ball, plays that forward to Fernandez. Now Basilage does get in behind. Can the youngster score a goal? He can't, because Gauchi comes up with a really good save there. That would have been the cherry on top, but we'll see if we can make it 4-1 after added time here. Should be full time very shortly as Fernandez takes his time on this corner. Victoros gets his head on the end of that one, but that should be full time. Indeed it is, and we're going to pick up the APL Cup for a second season in a row off the back of a little bit of a scratch here, especially in terms of the first half, but thankfully second half we kicked into gear a little bit more and we pick up this trophy for the second season in a row off the back of a 3-1 win over Adelaide United. So an ideal start to the season for us there as we pick up the APL Cup for a second season in a row, and off the back of that actually played our first game in the A-League off camera, as it was at home against the Perth Glory, who of course we did pinch the best player from in terms of Aiki Tsukamoto, and we thrashed them 5-0. Really good start to the season there at Mount Smart. First half goals to Victor Roche and Ronaldo from the spot. In the second half, Justin Keat got us off to a flyer, and Nathan Lobo and also Jonathan Mikado off the bench. He also scored a goal in a very dominant display there as we start the season off with a 5-0 win. So looking quite good so far, especially that game with a stronger lineup that we did put out for that first outing in the A-League. So it does mean that early days we are on top of the table. But quite interestingly, on that first match week, the Wellington Phoenix were able to tip up the Western Sydney Wanderers. That's what we're coming back for in the second game of today's episode, our second game of the A-League season. It's away from home. It could be tricky, especially considering how close these guys pushed us in the title race last season. And we did struggle to beat them last season. Just one game, which was in the A-League, where we beat them a draw away from home. And also, of course, they dumped us out of the Australian Cup with a 4-0 win over in Parramatta, where this game is going to be played. So hopefully we can get some revenge on them for that and start the season off with back-to-back wins. It does mean as well that we're going to be a lot closer to our first choice 11 than we were for that first game that did show you guys in the APL Cup against Adelaide United, albeit a couple of injury concerns going into this one. Michael Cornelius Beale is out with a virus. He's out for 5 to 6 days, so unfortunately he won't be featuring this game. So Nick Baker, he can stay in the deep-lying playmaker role. It probably means that Taua Taima might be the cover on the bench and Nathan Palmer the DM cover while that is the case. And also Max Caputo is coming back from injury but not quite ready for a full 90 minutes yet. So a couple of players that are missing for the second game of the season, but hopefully still off the back of a loss to the Phoenix. This is one that we can win and beat Marco the Snake Rudan's team over in Parramatta. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode, our second game of this A-League season. Western Sydney Wanderers going with the same formation as we saw from Adelaide United. That midfield very strong in terms of former AFC Auckland players with Sullivan, Toomey, and of course Stefan Malk. We ran through our changes before compared to our usual first choice 11. So Baker is the DLP, Keaton the cam with no Caputo, and also going to put Waino up top over Mikado, which is a little bit debatable. But of course he is the New Zealand international, so probably a smart idea with the Builder Nation side of the save, and hopefully we can pick up a win at the Wanderers. And up to the 10-minute mark for the first highlight, there's a corner here in our favour looking for Courtney Perkins at the near post. We're in the all-black, Western Sydney Wanderers in the all-white. Debango there with a chance. It's parried away from Thomas, but unfortunately doesn't fall to one of our teammates, and still 0-all early, albeit shortly off the back of that. Now a free kick to Fernandez. Thomas there rooted to the spot, but unfortunately that one goes over the bar on the front foot, but it's still 0-all. And not too off the back of those early chances here, another one for us here potentially at the 20-minute mark. Ronaldo on the ball, just passes that one back there. I think that was to Tsukamoto. And now we hold on to things here just outside the box. Baker on the ball starts to go forward, but Stefan Malk will rob that off one of his former teammates. But back on the ball here, Debungo tries to put that over the top. It's cleared away only as far as Baker. Now Vernadze squares that nicely for Ronaldo, but I do think that Vernadze might have been offside. Did look like the assistant referee at the top of the screen did put his flag up. So unfortunately, and indeed it's the case, this one does get ruled out. An encouraging start, but unfortunately, Vernadze there just sneaks offside by a good stride or two. So it remains 0-0. And just shy of the half-hour mark, this time Western Sydney Wanderers look like they might be on the attack, albeit as I say that, they pump a ball deep and we tidy that one up at the back, and Curtis switches this one out to Debungo. Now Vernadze, who was offside before, looking to get an assist this time, plays a nice ball forward there to Justin Keat. That's a lovely first-time finish from the young central attacking midfielder, who of course is in the all-white squad. Off the back of that, we'll just cancel our shout or praise instead of encourage, because that sometimes can get the guys in a weird mood if we are winning. But that is some good work from Vernadze this time. He will pick up an assist in Justin Keat with a well-timed run, first time finish with that left foot, and we grab a 1-0 lead. And very short left back of that opening goal, yet again might be on the attack here. So far, fair to say this has been one-way traffic. Curtis plays that one to Ronaldo, just cuts inside the box, and a nice ball through there to Debungo. On the other side, takes on the shot from a tight angle. It's a goal, but it's an own goal. It comes off Gabriel Clerc there, one of the Western Sydney Wanderer wingbacks, and that makes it 2-0. A bit unlucky there, because it looked like Debungo had that one pretty close to being on target, but Ronaldo there with a nice ball to find him and a ton of space. Only takes a slight deflection, but it's enough to put it in the back of the net, and we grab a buffer goal. And just before half-time here, the Western Sydney Wanderers might finally have a chance here to do something in this game. Cody Phoenix, the New Zealand international, will take this free kick looking for the top left corner. Alex Paulson forced to tip that one wide, albeit it might have been missing the target anyway, but didn't want to take any risks. And now a chance here from set piece. Stefan Malk, our former captain, puts that into the mix. But thankfully, Justin Keat there with a bit of what looked like was going to be a karate kick will clear that one. And we go into half-time with a 2-0 lead. And to be fair, on the highlights we saw, that is well deserved, and this is quite nice considering how tough we found things against the Western Sydney Wanderers last season as they kept on our case in the A-League. So maybe they're a bit weaker this season, despite the fact we sold them our former captain. Pretty happy with all the player ratings out there as well, so I think no changes needed at halftime. We'll get the second half underway with this 2-0 lead. And in fact, it's only taken a couple of seconds here into the second half for the first higher thrown to us here inside of the final third. Debungo gets that one back from Vernadze, returns the favour. That shot takes a massive deflection, but this time Vernadze, he can claim the goal. That makes it 3-0, and that should already be game over. And this is a lot more comfortable than I thought it would be. Maybe this season we're going to be quite a dominant force in the A-League based on these first two games, albeit Perth. Not much chop, but that one takes a big deflection off a New Zealander in Ryan Billingsley, and we'll take that as we make it 3-0, albeit right off the back of that, Sam Curtis picks up a yellow card with a 3-goal lead. We'll play things safe. Callum Elliott can come on for him, but looking good for us here with 40 minutes left. And absolutely nothing's happened off the back of that first sub that we did make early into the second half with that yellow card to Curtis, and now about to make our way into the last 20 of this game. So we'll take off some players here who do look on a bit of a deep yellow heart. So Lobo can come on at left back for Debungo, but unlucky not to get that goal, which took a deflection. Also Finn Linder, this time he can come on for Victoros. We might take off here Ben Wayne again for Mikado. So far the Wayne train not doing that well. Mikado will give some game time to. Also, Ronaldo there is looking like he's on a bit of a deep yellow heart, so Pion Pion can come on for him, and that'll be all our subs used with 20 minutes left and still a 3-0 lead. And making our way into the last 5 minutes of this game, it's been very quiet off the back of the subs that we have made, maybe a bit disjointed off the back of that, but very good first half, and also that goal early in the second to Vernadze. And this has been a very comfortable win, 3-0 over the Western Sydney Wanderers. All their players out there not performing too well. To be fair, stats-wise, I caught that late. We'll have a look at that shortly as well, but it didn't look like it was that one-sided a game, but thankfully we must have been a lot more clinical with our chances than the Wanderers were, and off the back of last season, as I said earlier, that feels quite good because these guys certainly gave us a few headaches last season. The home win was thanks to a late Stefan Malk free kick, and we did struggle away from home with that 4-0 loss in the Cup and that draw late in the season to make sure that they could not catch us and pick up that A-League title, but that based on the highlights we saw, was pretty comfortable, a lot more comfortable than those stats make it look, but 2 wins from 2 in our first games of the A-League season, and it should mean we're going to be top of the table early doors. So a great start to the season for us here at AFC Auckland for the 4th season, 2 wins from 2 in the A-League and also picking up the APL Cup for the 2nd season in a row. 3 unbeaten teams after the first 2 games in the league. The Central Coast Mariners might be back to being good as they've picked up wins over Canberra United, and they also be on the first match week. The Redcliffe Waves, albeit that one by not a lot, but more interestingly, the Wellington Phoenix, 2 wins from 2 to start their season. That's interesting. They beat Western Sydney and then Macarthur FC, albeit Macarthur, they did get a red card, and George McDonald, EIEI goal, he picked one up there to make it 1-0. So the Phoenix this season, they could be quite a threat to us with George McDonald still at the club. I do think he's actually a bit unhappy there. It'll be interesting to see if any big clubs do come after him, because he is someone with a ton of potential. Ideally, would actually potentially get him to Auckland, but of course, if he's going to be starting regularly for the Phoenix, probably a good idea to leave him down there in Wellington, but certainly a good player there, a future striking option, no doubt, for the All Whites. We'll see how he gets on and if he gets to move potentially somewhere else around transfer deadline day. And of course, if he does leave, that certainly would dent the Phoenix's hopes of trying to beat us to the A-League title this season. But that will do it for today. As I said, great start picking up the APL Cup and 2 wins in our first 2 A-League games. If you enjoyed that as well as the transfers that we did make, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll probably come back tomorrow off the back of transfer deadline day, just in case some interesting things do happen in terms of us or some other players from New Zealand around the A-League. So I'm not too sure exactly when we come back. Obviously, Central Coast, they've started the season off quite nicely this time. That could be a game that we do come back for, or something else around deadline day against Redcliffe or Canberra. So we'll come back in late August or in September at some time. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.